Hello, I'm so excited to work with you today on my favorite reading skill. That's thinking and knowing what I'm reading about. That's what makes a story really come alive and be enjoyable. The big word for that is comprehension. That means I know what I'm reading about and I understand it. And I do that by thinking. I have to be thinking the whole time I'm reading for it to make sense. So there are some ways that we can do that by being a word detective. If I'm a word detective, that means just like a real detective, I'm looking for clues. So we're going to read a book together today called The Traveling Musicians of Bremen. And while we're reading it, there are some words in here that are a little bit tricky. So we're going to be word detectives and we're going to figure out what those words mean. And there's a few ways that we can do that. One way is to reread what we read again. That just helps us get another look at what we read to make sure it makes sense. We can also read a little bit more past the word. That might give us some more clues to what we need to understand what's going on in the story. We can also look for specific words that might be close to that big word that explains what it means. Okay, so we are going to be word detectives so that we can grow our comprehension, so that we can understand what we are reading, to get a little bit better at understanding while we are reading, which is what makes reading fun and important, to know what we read and to be thinking while we're reading. All right, are you ready? The Traveling Musicians of Bremen, retold by P.K. Page. It was one of those beautiful days in summer. Birds were singing in the leaves. Wildflowers were blooming in the meadow. The early morning sun was making diamonds of the dew. And an old, rather decrepit donkey was munching the sweet grass. Oh, I found a word. I'm not sure what it means. Right here, decrepit. An old, rather decrepit. I'm going to think about some of the ways that I can be a detective. One of the ways was to look for other words that are close to it. Old, rather decrepit donkey. Oh, that gives me a really good idea of what decrepit means. It means kind of old, right? So that helps me understand. He was munching the sweet grass. Delicious, absolutely delicious. Who wouldn't be happy on such a day? But the owner of the donkey was not the least bit happy. He didn't hear the birds. He didn't even see the sun, let alone the wildflowers. Nor could he begin to imagine how good that sweet grass tasted. All he could see was his donkey. Obsolete, he said. My donkey is obsolete, obsolete, obsolete. I don't know what obsolete means. And it doesn't really tell me. So let me think of another strategy I can use to be a word detective. I could keep reading to see if there's more clues in the second part. So I'm going to try that one. Once he carried my grain to market. Once he pulled my children in a little cart. Now I have a truck, a big red truck, and he's obsolete. Oh, okay, so the farmer is saying that the donkey used to do things for him, but now he has a truck and he doesn't need the donkey, so that makes the donkey obsolete. So when I don't need something anymore, it makes it obsolete. Oh, all right. We just did a really good word detective. That helped our comprehension with understanding what we are reading. Besides which, he's old and hungry, and all he does is eat. Obsolete, said Donkey, flicking his ears. That's a word I don't know. Oh, but we know it now. Remember, it means something that we don't need anymore. It becomes obsolete. But old, he's calling me old. I understand old. I'd better make haste before it's too late. Make haste? I'm gonna reread that sentence, and then I'm gonna read the next sentence too and see if that helps me understand what it means to make haste. I'd better make haste before it's too late. So with all his might he jumped the gate and galloped away to the highway. Oh, he wants to make haste, and then he jumps the gate and ran away. Oh, making haste. So he ran, right? He went away. He made haste. He went fast. Okay, that helped me. That helped me be a good word detective. Now I understand that a little bit more. I shall go to the city, he said. I'll make my name. I'm a musical chap with a musical soul, and I'll play the flute for a living. So he's going to make haste and go play the flute. He had not gone far before he saw a dog lying in the road. A despondent-looking dog just lying in the road. Despondent? There is another tricky word in this book. Despondent-looking dog just lying in the road. I'm going to read some more to help me. Why, dog, he said, you look down in the mouth. What can be the matter? Down in the mouth is kind of a weird saying also, but then he asks him what can be the matter. And I'm also kind of looking at the picture and seeing that dog doesn't look like he's running around full of energy. He's just lying down in the road, despondent. So maybe despondent means he's not moving a lot. He looks down in the mouth, meaning he doesn't look like he feels good. Okay, that's another new word. We are learning so many new words today. And dog replied, my pedigree is impeccable. My past performance perfect. For years I have been a favorite in the house, and now, just because I am old and can no longer run when my master goes hunting, he has threatened to put an end to me. Why, only this morning he decided to knock me on the head. Knock me on the head? I have barely escaped with my life. That gives us more information. He got hit on the head really hard, and now he's lying down, so he probably really doesn't feel very good, and he probably is despondent, meaning not moving a lot. Cheer up, said Donkey. Join company with me. I'm going to the city to play the flute. You can play the timpani and bark now and then. Timpani. I'm going to reread that because I'm not sure what that means. I'm going to the city to play the flute. You can play the timpani and bark now and then. So if he's playing the flute, then he can play the timpani. And this picture is also a big clue for me also. So a timpani is kind of like a drum. Oh, I learned a new instrument today. That's so cool. And so it came to pass on the highway to the city that a great partnership was formed. And donkey and dog together sang a wonderful wordless song. Hee-haw, hee-haw, bow wow wow, he bow, ha wow, how. All right, so we just practiced being word detectives. I gave you some really good clues to look for. I reread the sentences to see if I could figure out if it made sense. I looked for other words close to it that might mean similar things, like old and decrepit were close to each other. So that gave me a really good hint. And sometimes I even had to keep reading to really understand what a word meant, like the word obsolete. It wasn't in the first part, it was in the second part when it explained that he doesn't use the donkey anymore. And then I even use the pictures sometimes. So now the next part, you're going to help me figure out what some more of these words mean. We're going to brainstorm together, and I'm going to help you think of these clues that you can use to be a really good word detective so that you comprehend what you're reading, because that is what makes reading fun. If I read this whole story and I don't know what most of the words mean, am I going to enjoy it? No, I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to have fun reading it. I'm not going to know what I'm reading. That's why we need to be good word detectives. So this time, you're going to really help me using those clues to be good word detectives, figure out what the rest of the words mean. And then on your own, in the books that you read, the book that you're working on now, I want you to write down some of those words that are a little bit tricky, and then see if you can figure out what they mean using those context clues. And I'm going to make sure that you're understanding, but that you're also thinking about words you don't know. And just using any book that you read is really going to help you get better at comprehension, understanding, thinking, knowing what you're reading about, so that you can get to the best part of reading, which is enjoying a book. So just to clarify, the next part of the we do would be going through the book and really helping them walk through the different strategies for the comprehension to understand how to do that, so that I'm scaffolding and helping them. And then the last part would be, as they are reading on their own, to find those words that are hard for them and to look through and figure out that they understand what they mean using those context clues. The I do can be a little more tricky because I have to be kind of hearing them and seeing them, but if they're writing it down, that will work. I could also use like a worksheet that says this word is similar to this word. Like they read sentences or they read a story and it says the word dulcible in this sentence means good voice, terrible voice, pretty voice. Things like that. Use worksheets to kind of track how they're doing. I like them reading books, being involved with books to learn to enjoy it rather than a worksheet, but I do understand that the worksheets will help them and me track their progress and that they're understanding and using those skills for the comprehension.